I'll give you two examples of success stories. The reason we're doing the MAC is because we have an overarching, broad requirement to support our warfighters. So we're not necessarily focused on command and control, intelligence, logistics, fires, and movement. We're interested in all of it. So we have to have a center of expertise to be able to reach out and find the technologies, emerging technologies, to meet our warfighter requirements. We were established in 2001. Our product is warfighter assessment. We let the warfighter talk to the technologies. As we add at the very bottom, I apologize if you're unable to see it, it says we help the S&T community help the warfighter. Again, we are an operational command at Marine Forces Pacific, and our focus is to find the technology that meets the requirements of our warfighter. When we identify technology, one of the bullets on the right-hand side in our philosophy is experiment. That's what we're doing here in Cobra Gold to a certain extent, and then in Crimson Viper exercise in July of this year, we experiment with that technology in various environments, again, ensuring that the technology meets the requirements of our warfighters. Next slide, please. The meat of what we do is in this process model. On the top left, we have the warfighter pull. That's the requirements coming directly from our trigger pullers. We have the technology push. This is where our government agencies, even commercial entities, come to us with the technology they believe may be meet the requirement of our warfighter. At the MEC, we take the requirements, we take the technology input, and we go out to industry, other government agencies, and see how the two should be matched. That's where the center of excellence comes in. These two entry points, the warfighter pull and technology push, come to us. It is now us at the MEC who go out to other government agencies, not necessarily just the Marine Corps, because the United States Marine Corps has limited access, but we go to the Office of Naval Research, OSD, who may not know the requirements of our warfighters, so we bring it to them. Look for capabilities that they may have that may be sitting on the shelf that we could potentially use. Once we determine that we have the technology requirement, we bring it back to our warfighters. That's where we have our stand-up and focus team. That's where we let the warfighters take a look at the technology. Very much like this in a PowerPoint menu at first, but we let them tell us what they think of the technology, whether it's worth pursuing or whether it is with certain modifications. Once we get concurrence or initial concurrence from our warfighters, we go ahead and develop an assessment and experimentation plan. That's where we take the technology and we run it through its ropes. We take it and we throw it in the dirt, we throw it in the water. Basically, we do everything that a Marine would do with this technology to ensure it's the right product for you. Through that assessment and analysis phase, we come back to the warfighter with our results and we talk to them again. The one thing about our cycle is we are continuously talking to the warfighter. They're our bread and butter, they're the reason we exist. So when we do an experiment, we get the results, we go back to them for more comment and more feedback. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is provide something to our acquisition community to be able to make an analysis and hopefully develop a capability for our warfighter. This is a little more detailed breakdown of it, but focusing on the areas that are critical. Again, we start with the requirement, and we establish the focus team, which is where we have our warfighter, but they have the direct capability to talk about the technology. Create the experimentation and assessment plan. And the thing I'd like to point out about that is the fact that it is not a pass-fail environment. We're not here to tell a particular company, a particular government lab that has technology that they failed our assessment. No one fails. We're only looking to find the best of the capability. They may not meet the requirement of the warfighter, but that doesn't mean that they'll fail. It simply means that they may have to go back and re-engineer some of the particular capabilities within their technology, but it's definitely not a pass-fail scenario. And again, we look at the attributes of the technologies. We're not focusing on telling a company they're not doing the right thing. We're focusing on looking at the best thing that they may have and providing that attribute to our warfighters. Next slide, please. An example of how this worked is with the XMAC. I know that personally because I'm the project lead with regard to this particular technology. The Director General of DSTD in the spring of 2009 came to talk to the Lieutenant General Stalder, Commander General of Marine Forces Pacific, with a request for a capability for counter IEDs. I was provided that task, and as we put in here, it went to the center, it went to us, the MEC, and we went out and did an industry search, laboratory search to find a technology that would meet the particular requirement for a counter IED. We identified Redx Defense primarily because it's a lightweight trace explosive detection system that enables a quick analysis of whether a person has trace explosives on their hands or not. Another big thing was the fact that it was ITARS approved. So even if we conducted our experimentation and it seemed to be a good technology, the Thai military would be able to immediately purchase the technology. In July of 2009, during Crimson Viper, we experimented it inside a heat. We trained the Royal Thai Marine Corps, and then in September, I came back and we trained the Royal Thai Army Explosive Ordnance Division. Upon completion of that training, they took it out for testing and operational use. And some of the feedback we received was that they wanted to find an ammonium nitrate capability. We took that information, brought it back to the developers, and in January of this year, we are collecting the data on the experiences of EOD, but also we're able to now tell them in March of 2010, there is a capability to detect ammonium nitrate. So we listen to the warfighter. It doesn't have to be a Marine Corps warfighter. In this case, this is the Thai military telling us they need ammonium nitrate capability. And within 1 year, we would have one experiment, modification, and hopefully an upgrade to that particular technology and be able to provide it to the Thai military. Ultimately, again, the bottom line for us is to have an operational capability in the hands of the warfighter, whoever the warfighter is. Next slide, please. Next slide. This is another example of a success story. This one is the case of the Humanitarian Assistance Disaster Relief Organization, that is a Department of Defense organization based in Honolulu, Hawaii. But here I would point out, when we look at warfighter requirements and meeting and gaining an operational capability, what they're looking for primarily here is to educate, train, and conduct research. They have a specific focus area within humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. It's another way of using a center of excellence. We have a broader scope that we have to deal with. The COE for HADR has a more limited scope with regard to where they go. They have a larger base of expertise, but because of their experts can focus on just one product, whereas we focus on a multitude of products. But it is another great example of a capability within the Department of Defense. Next slide, please. So in summary, a large part of the management for any type of COE is the capability to gain information. And that is through expanding awareness, through collaboration. Put the right people in the right place, continuing to expand your network. Again, this is all under the theme of a capability to collaborate, minimizing staffing and personnel. For us, Warfighter Workshop, our focus is getting the feedback from our warfighters, providing it to the technologies, and then getting them to continuously be involved in the development of the technology. We do experimentation, and because we do experimentation in various countries, we get to learn. As we've learned with the XPAC, that we needed to develop a new type of capability and get it out to the warfighter quickly. Again, the emphasis on the non-pass-fail assessment, and the networking. Again, falls under the theme of expanding awareness. Sitting inside of an office may be nice, it's air-conditioned, but it does not provide you with collaboration. People have to go out, start talking to each other, and talking in non-traditional forums. Places that we tend to go are military in nature, but then we also go to commercial industry, trade shows, to talk to see what they're like. So networking is still the bottom line for us in order to create a collaborative environment and help us manage center of excellence. Come.